Before we begin this episode, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we record today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging. This always was and will always be Aboriginal land. Good afternoon.
Rolling.
Oh my God.
Now
We started with the song.
rolling. How many times have you had a voicemail left by me and it's me singing you a song? And how many times were there Backstreet Boys songs in there?
The key question is how many times have I actually listened to the voicemail? I don't think I've ever listened to it.
I am crushed.
Should we stop recording?
I've done some of the best performances
Have
of
you?
my life on your voicemail.
I'll have to go back and check them. I'm the worst with voicemail messages. I don't listen to anything. So
There's
you
a
can tell me.
I left you a Lauryn Hill song.
Did you?
Yes.
Jeez. I should go back and listen.
You should.
Yeah.
So welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thanks.
And I will definitely be singing at some stage just to make up for all that lost joy that you've missed out on. There has been Backstreet Boys on your
I'm not surprised at all.
voicemail. So I'll get into what we're talking about today, but first, the acknowledgement to country for today's episode. I was born in South Africa and migrated when I was a little girl. And so I've been back a couple of times, once as a 14-year-old and once I had a conference in Joburg and went back and got to meet a whole lot of family that I'd never met before as an adult. And I was really struck by how I felt just different being in South Africa and just felt this sense of connection that I couldn't really put my finger on, the music, the nature, the people, etc. So my acknowledgement for today's episode is for anyone for whom the place where they're currently living is not the place that they actually feel most connected to.
Nice. Actually, just to extend on that story just for a second. So I'm Fijian Indian. My parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, like quite a far way back, are all actually born in Fiji. And then at some point prior to that, they're born in India. But I'd never been back to India. Not back. I'd never been to India until last year when we went to visit our team in India, in Bangalore. And in a similar sort of way, I found this kind of really interesting connection and desire to find out more that I'd never had before. So, there's something, about being back, where you're from, where the roots are and
Something about it. And so obviously thinking about the Australian context, this stuff really matters.
Yep. Good on.
So in today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about high-performing teams models and some of the most well-known ones out there. And then we're going to be talking about kind of what are some common threads in those frameworks and those models, and then how do we use those and how have we used those in the business together, and how am I using these with client work at the moment? So how do you really operationalize the stuff that's in these models? What are some of the tactics and the tools to bring these amazing ideas and concepts into like actual concrete things?
Yeah, I think on our first episode we talked and referenced a few different models, and there are obviously heaps, and lots of them, but there's probably a few that have stuck out in our work together and a couple that we've really kind of gravitated towards. So yeah, it'd be nice to dive into these a bit. Yeah,
it'd be nice, would it?
Yeah, it would be.
Nice.
I might learn something.
So I scribbled down a few different models that are known, and it's funny you say, there's must be like I know loads of them. There's not actually all that many models, yes. And if you look at, so we'll talk about some of the kind of common ones, but I remember a few years ago doing a deep dive in this to really see what are all the frameworks, the models, what's been used, what's been researched, etc. Not a lot have actually been like analysed as part of like research studies.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them are actually theoretical and they're based on experience and, just practitioners kind of seeing how all these bits fit together. There are a few that have an absolute bounty of evidence behind them, but most of them don't. And a lot of them have got really similar elements as well. So it's almost like a repackaging of a lot of the same kind of ideas. So before we get into talking about a few of them, why do these things matter? Why, you've heard me talk a lot about frameworks, and it's one of the things I kind of bring to a lot of my work. Why do they matter?
We're consultants, so it's kind of, we trade in frameworks.
Well, why? Why are frameworks a thing?
I think structure for thinking is important. So to me, Are we going to do a deep dive into why frameworks are important?
Well, what even is a framework?
I think for
what
this, I think for this,
like, what is it? Like, we talk about frameworks and models and blah, blah. Well, what actually?
this took a turn. I didn't expect it to take.
What is a framework?
Well, I think framing up a concept, a thing that is, well, effectively you're trying to communicate to lots of other people, right? So there's lots of thoughts and ideas and things that are going into this topic. How do you frame that up into a structure to pull all that potentially randomized thought into something that is more structured that you can then communicate frequently to lots of people and they will understand the same thing. So like this topic specifically, and I know we'll talk about the Google Aristotle stuff in a second, but I had heard about psych safety and high performance for quite some time, but it wasn't until I started seeing some of the framing of it where I was like, oh, I get it. I get how that bit connects to that bit, and that's how it all comes together. So I think frameworks are actually really important because it helps join the dots and pull all these kind of thoughts together, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking, I thought you were going to be like, oh, framework. It's, I don't know, how work is framed. When you say to people, give a definition of like change management, they're like, oh, it's how we manage change.
Yeah.
And that's,
I should have said that.
You should. Just to simplify it. So I also think frameworks are really about like they're a metaphor or they're a symbol of a whole lot of complexity. Yeah. Not trying to overly simplify it, but just trying to capture it in a way that you can actually work with it.
Clarify is the word I'd use.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Trademarked 2000 and whatever year, 25. So let's have a chat about some of the key models that are out there, and I'd be amazed if people haven't heard of a lot of these already because they are so well known, and there's a real it's really important not to try and keep reinventing the wheel. If you find something that is capturing things well and it fits the what you're seeing, out in front of you, there is no point, recreating it. So I do love a lot of these because they just keep being relevant even as the, as the world changes. So let's whip through these quickly and then let's talk about kind of what they mean to you and how we've operationalized them previously, us. So Amy Edmondson, we talked about her in a previous episode and this phenomenal body of work on psychological safety.
Yeah.
So what I love about this idea that Amy Edmondson's work and psychological safety is a model of high-performing teams is because it just captures so beautifully this sense that that is kind of all you need. If you're getting that piece right, so many other things flow from it.
It's foundational to everything else, right?
Yeah. And and we'll talk about the Project Aristotle in a sec, instead of trying to bolt on all of these other things that might only account for a tiny bit of improvement in how a team functions, the message is psych safety, work in psych safety and living and breathing it is such a good bang for your buck that don't even bother too much on a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to ask you to define psychological safety, what it is, and then would love to get your thoughts on kind of where you've seen it, where you've felt it in businesses, organisations that you've worked with or that you've been in. Yeah. So what is it and what does it feel like? How do you know you've got it?
So we were doing a little prep for this before this, right? And we were talking about how often it is difficult to describe how to implement and execute psych safety. Though when we talk about the Luminary and we talk about, and our people talk about the environment, it is described as one as being very safe. So I guess my interpretation of what it is an environment that allows people to be themselves, to bring their whole selves to the workplace, to not be frightened of speaking up, providing ideas. I mean, ultimately, it's the basis of like experimentation and innovation, and that's going to come from ultimately where people feel safe to input and speak up and take risks and fail, right? So all that sort of stuff for me lives in the concept of psych safety.
Yeah.
I guess when it's done well, it feels easy, right? Like, and I think this is what we were reflecting on when we were kind of talking about the topic of this. Like it just feels right. And it doesn't feel forced, and that takes a lot of effort and work, and it takes years to kind of build, and it's never really perfect, right? When it doesn't work, though, I think it's more obvious, because when it doesn't work is when people aren't speaking up, they're disengaging, they're not filling out surveys, they're not They don't feel like they're part of change. They don't feel like their input is valued. They, there's all this stuff that happens, and that is where psych safety doesn't exist.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things you mentioned that are really critical to it, and I think just to kind of offer a bit of a textbook definition, it is the shared belief in a group that that environment is safe for interpersonal risk-taking, trying new things, saying what you really think, etc. When we oversimplify the nuances in psychological safety, it can be quite dangerous, and it can actually open up kind of more risk for people. So, for example, psychological safety does not, creating psychological safety does not mean you can say whatever you think, communicate every possible emotion as it's happening in real time, because we're still balancing this with professionalism, respecting our impact on others. So I think there can be a bit of an oversimplification of it, that it's being nice at all, all costs, that it's about having all your ideas applauded and, every idea that you have lands.
I've always thought of like, do we feel comfortable enough to fight, and fight in a way that is respectful, but we can debate something really, really hard and then walk out of the room and go have a coffee, or, kind of move on to the next topic. And that, I feel like, is such a big symbol to whether or not this environment is safe. Like, can you really have arguments? Yeah. And is it okay to have an argument? Because, it needs to be, right? We're solving some pretty gnarly stuff most of the time.
Yeah. And I think something you're also touching on there that I think is really important is, given a lot of the changes in the world of work around psychosocial risk and well-being and the legislation in that space, which is a whole different thing. It is a whole different thing. There's almost a nervousness around, can we fight well? Can we have robust conversations? Can I ask, my direct report to do X, Y, and Z? So there has been almost a bit of a blurring of the lines in terms of like, actually, you're still going to feel uncomfortable at work sometimes, and particularly if you're doing hard things and new things and you're kind of in the arena. So if we think that psychological safety is about feeling good and comfortable and stuff all the time, it's kind of the opposite. But there is that blurry line, because there is also a line that you can cross that is unsafe. But we're still kind of grappling, I think, with what is the right level of kind of discomfort and crunchiness that is safe, but, isn't crossing over into that kind of risk space. So I think it's such an interesting concept, and there is so much really high quality research on psychological safety. So
you were talking about Amy's kind of framework, which boils down to these three areas. Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, so when we're talking about models, and come back to the topic for today, so high-performing kind of teams models, Amy Edmondson's got this great 3-component kind of a framework that sits within psychological safety, which is really the nuts and bolts of, okay, we believe it matters. We know we want to build it. We know that we get, the best performing businesses and teams have got this in spades.
Just setting the stage sort of thing, right?
Yes. So, and again, we've referenced this twice now. We will come back to the Google project in a sec. So she's identified as part of all of her work 3 key things that you can do to try and build this thing. So the first one, the fancy language for it is like set the stage. The second one is model humility and invite participation. And the third one is respond productively. So in a nutshell, that first one, setting the stage, is about making it known in your business or your team, even if you have just you and one direct report, this is what this is. We're going to do this. We're going to build psych safety. This is how we're going to do it. This is how often we're going to measure it. These are your channels and your mechanisms for when you're not feeling safe. So it's kind of providing the structures and the processes in the system so that psych safety can actually be a measurable kind of embedded thing. So setting the stage, doing it properly. The second one, which is about modelling humility and inviting participation. So that's leaders in particular who've got such a big, role to play here. Being human and communicating that it is okay to be human, that no one's perfect. Yes, we don't want predictable failures happening on the reg, the things that probably shouldn't have gone wrong but do sometimes. Yeah. So it's all of those kind of behaviours that a leader can do that kind of shows everyone else it is safe to be human in this environment. The inviting participation component of that is down to small things, which aren't really that small in the end, which is things like asking the most junior person in the room for their opinion at a meeting.
Right.
So it's making it easier for everyone to speak up and have a voice and celebrate that diversity in all its glory. The last one, which is the one I do quite a bit of training on in organisations, the respond productively bit, is how do you behave when someone has stuffed up, when something has not gone according to plan, because how you respond in that moment is either going to build the psych safety and increase people's willingness to admit mistakes in future, keep trying new crazy things, or whether people are just going to shut up shop, go into a finger-pointing, blame kind of a culture. So I do quite a bit of work with leaders on how the heck do you respond well, even if your first kind of dysregulated emotional response is anger or irritation or it's been an expensive mistake or whatever it is. How do you respond in a way that's still human but sets the tone for people to not just then go and hide all the mistakes they're still going to make because we're human, better the devil we know.
I think that the basis for like that model is so simple. It makes so much sense. And there's often like a challenge in how do you do these things. So I will see leaders set the stage, talk about, what they're attempting to build and the environment they want to have. But you have to do that consistently and in different ways. And it's not just that offsite and it's not just that one meeting. It's like constantly reminding everyone what is acceptable, what's not, what are we trying to, what are we shining a spotlight on and saying, actually, that was great. Yeah. But also, hey, that wasn't so great. We don't want to kind of have that in the workplace or in the environment that we want.
So just on that as well, we talk a lot in like systems thinking and organisational development about what's visible and what's invisible.
Yeah.
So visible things are the values, you can read them, you can touch them,
Yeah.
but the invisible things are like how people behave when they're actually under pressure. Are they still living and breathing those values on the wall? So this commitment to continuously kind of role model the kinds of things that build psych safety, it is more influential what's happening invisibly. So the kinds of things that get rewarded. So for example, we might say, it's safe to be yourself here. We want you to challenge the status quo. We want you to speak up when you think we're getting something wrong at the leadership level. But then if someone does, dare to speak up and they are like penalised for that, then you can say till the cows come home, this is a safe place. They're never going to speak up again.
Yeah, the proof isn't there, right?
Yeah, so we have to kind of match what is said with what is actually rewarded. So one of the best ways you can build psych safety is when someone does speak up or challenges the status quo. We should absolutely reward when, a more junior person puts their hand up in an all hands and asks a really curly question. That is the moment for, you as the CEO or whatever to go, stop everyone. That question, loved it, loved that they put that out there, kind of rewarding it in the moment.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And also that this is like a constant focus. You're not going to get it perfect straight away. You will stuff up. You will respond in ways, so especially for leaders, you won't get it right all the time. But just because you didn't get it right that time doesn't mean you can't get it right the next time. And you keep learning. And I think most people respect that also.
But this is the joy of psychological safety because you can fuck up.
Yeah.
And then you can notice it, talk about it, go through the repair work. I could not lead a team without having high psych safety. I just couldn't do it because I make too many mistakes and get too much stuff wrong. Like even when I've got my kind of therapy hat and I'm working in clinical psych, I do something called feedback-informed treatment. So I ask my clients at the start and the end of every therapy session, basically give me real-time feedback. Is that what you wanted out of this session? Did we stick to the things you wanted to talk about? How's our relationship going? If I didn't create that kind of environment in therapy or workplaces or with a team, I would just feel nowhere. I would feel like I can't actually be human. And so that's the amazing thing about psychological safety. If you build it, you're creating your own soft landing as well. So
let's talk about the other models because I think, there's a great basis there for what is psych safety. And the thing when I originally was introduced to the Aristotle stuff from Google, I was like, okay, in practice, like this is how they're kind of applying it, but also how psych safety ladders up to other pieces. And then the same thing with Lencioni's model.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to give a bit of an overview of
Yes.
the other
So
ones?
Project Aristotle came out of Google. It was 2016 or somewhere around there, so a little while ago now. They set out to try and figure out what are our best performing teams, what makes them
What makes them
so
perform
good.
higher,
Yeah, and what are we even measuring performance, what does success really mean? So they spent 2 years, massive study, a lot of interviews, blind interviews, looked at 180 of their teams, and then they mapped out all of the different variables that did make the teams that were performing, outperforming the others. So I love this piece of work because it's really captured where to spend your energy and your money, because you can't do all of the leadership training and you can't do all the culture work. You have to prioritize. So what they found, and I can't remember the stats exactly, but there's kind of 5 key things that lead to high performance in their teams in that context, knowing, of course, that there are other environments that are perhaps going to be different, and you need further research on all of that. So the key aspects were psychological safety, which I'll come back to a sec, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning, like getting meaning from the work and feeling like their work has an impact.
Yeah.
So all of those things, the best teams had more of those things than the other teams. But if you, psychological safety itself accounted for just a phenomenal amount of kind of variance. So in the science kind of world, if you can find something that accounts for even, 5 to 6% of the variance for something, it's pretty exciting, because that's a big rock.
Yeah.
And it was something ridiculous, like 38 or 40% or something of the variance. So it's like, yes, being dependable matters, and yes, finding personal meaning in the work you're doing matters, but actually, if you can build that psychological safety in your team, that is the thing that will set you apart from others.
Yeah, and I remember when we first started working, actually with your predecessor, and I saw that study for the first time. At the time, we were building out our values and our kind of our purpose and those types of things, and really trying to codify, the behavior that we wanted to recognize and promote. And I remember seeing that study and kind of going, "Oh, right, okay, this is interesting," because you got to start at the core of building this really, really, really foundational thing.
Yep.
And you'll never finish. It'll never stop. You'll always have to work at it. But if you erode that, basis, the rest kind of falls over.
Completely. And if you think about something like dependability, let's say you've got a team member who has become a bit unreliable of late and you need to have a conversation with them. If you don't have high psychological safety with them, they're probably going to lie.
Yeah.
They're probably going to deflect. They'll probably take, hypothesizing, but take absenteeism days and won't really tell you kind of what's going on, all sorts of things. So if you want to even be able to have the groundwork laid to have honest conversations about things like dependability and are we all doing the right roles and do we need to change our structure, et cetera. If you don't have psych safety to start with, how do you even have those productive conversations?
Yeah.
And be getting to what's really going on. You'll just get the, superficial image protection, kind of version of things.
Yeah.
I just don't think I could ever operate in an organisation that didn't have psychological safety. I would feel pretty powerless in that environment.
And then there's the Tuckman's model.
Tuckman. So this one is a very well-known one, and it's sort of used in slightly different contexts, but the idea is teams regularly go through this cycle. It's not like it doesn't go in a perfect what's the word when it's not linear?
Cycle?
But it doesn't kind of go forwards and not go backwards. It's iterative. Yes. So the idea is that when a team first comes together for whatever reason, they are kind of forming, honeymoon period, everyone's on their best behaviour, getting to know each other, and then they will always go through a period of storming. So they're kind of jostling and figuring stuff out.
My favourite.
Yeah, just noticing all the things about each other that give them the shits and the things that are annoying and all their quirks and everything. And then they will go through the next kind of phase, which is norming. So they're starting to settle and figure out this is how we do things and who does what and how we fight well, etc. And then they hit this kind of performing. This is when they start to.
We've seen this applied heavily in kind of agile project teams and kind of, how do you build, delivery teams. This model's used a lot. Yeah. To kind of talk about bringing those teams together.
Yeah.
And then we have our favourite, my main man, Lencioni.
Yes.
I've never met Patrick Lencioni, but I feel like
Lencioni. He's an American author, speaker, consultant, writer. 2002, he released this really interesting book. It was kind of written more as a story, like a fable, and it was called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, or something along those lines. It's 23 years ago now, but it is one of the kind of classical models, I guess, that we keep coming back to. So Lencioni's model, it's a pyramid on purpose because, again, each layer, you cannot skip a layer. You cannot build the higher levels unless you've got the foundation right. So at the bottom, and I'll see if I can remember this off the top of my head, you've got a dysfunctional team is low in trust, lacking in trust. A high-functioning team, the inverse is going to be high trust and high psych safety, two things very closely combined. The next rung up from that is dysfunctional teams got a fear of conflict, so there's a lot of avoidant kind of behaviours. Obviously, the inverse of that is like fighting well and being able to debate stuff in a caring but respectful way. The next one up is around sort of structure and like clarity of roles. Oh, commitment.
I wrote it down.
Oh, good.
I took some notes today.
Good. So commitment, yes, that is the next one. So commitment's about not consensus as such, but like getting the war room together, getting have the emergency meeting, even if you don't completely agree, right then and there is kind of agreeing that we're going to kind of go forth together, a bit of a united front. Yeah. So making sure everyone's kind of heading in the same direction. What's the next one? Accountability. Where did I get clarity and roles? It's the Aristotle one. So accountability is making sure that not just people are keeping their direct reports or whatever language you use in your organisation accountable, but actually peer-on-peer accountability, which can be really challenging. Yeah. So making sure that there is some kind of system around, whether it's OKRs, KPIs, something around we know who's doing what and we're going to hold each other to account to that, adapt where we need to, so that stuff's just not sliding and drifting. And the last one? Results. So dysfunctional teams, what we can see is there is an overemphasis on self-success and self-orientation, what I'm going to achieve and my individual kind of targets, etc. Whereas functional teams, they're all gunning towards the same thing. They're all aiming in the same direction. They know what success looks like in that team or organisation, so they're aligned and kind of working in sync.
So we were about to actually try and codify our...
Is codify your new favourite
It is
word?
my new word, codify. I quite like it.
Yeah,
you like?
Nice. I like it.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Codify what high performance meant to us, like our high performance model. And we ended up going, let's not do that. That's a bit silly.
Yep.
And we landed on kind of Lencioni's model because it felt like one that really encompassed, those foundational elements from Amy's model around psych safety, which is the core of everything.
Yeah.
It had those elements from what Google talked about. But I also like the fact that it talks about what is a dysfunctional team and then what is the inverse of that, like starting with what is the behavior that you would see if you don't have this. So it just makes it so easy to understand.
Yeah.
And you can often kind of go, oh, yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah. And I remember us on that day that we both, I kind of presented to you, here's different ways we could do this and different models, and you were just like, let's stick with that. So one of the next things I did once we
So actually just a little nugget for people that are kind of listening into this, right? Like there is often, and I had this, but there is often a desire to go and create something. We're going to create the thing. Don't create the thing. There's lots of things. They're all pretty good. I mean, Google spent 2 years and I'm sure bucket loads of money on their research. And so like leverage what exists. There's a lot of great frameworks and kind of not having to, start from scratch.
Yeah.
Like figure out what you feel talks to you, your leadership style and the team.
Yep.
And then run with the actions.
Yep.
Not the framework.
100%. So know the things that you really do want tailored and absolutely bespoke, and then don't reinvent the wheel on the stuff that's absolutely good enough. So you did a really good shout there when you were just like, I really like that model. It fits us. It's the right language. Let's stick with that. So I actually jotted down, we did this as an exercise after kind of landing on that is going to be our model for how we do high performance in this business. I've written down, and we won't go through all of it because it's pretty detailed and is basically the OD strategy on a page. We mapped out, all right, if we're going to build trust, we're going to get better at conflict, we're going to make sure that we've got high commitment, good accountability, and like that real focus on results. How are we actually going to do it? What are the systems, the processes, the tactics, the behaviours, the invisible stuff, the visible stuff that we're going to do? And I've got, 30 things on this list, which are things that some of them we didn't have to like introduce or do. A lot of it, you do really naturally in terms of your leadership style, and people have gravitated towards that kind of humility and sense of humour and not kind of taking things personally and, kind of rolling with the punches. Like there's a lot that you just are as a person and as a leader in the business. But then there's a whole lot of really like tactical stuff that we introduced to build it.
Should we pick out a couple at each level? Because I feel like that would be, the audience would probably, like that, right?
So one thing that we actually got a lot of really great feedback on over the years was our Fresh Eyes sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Do you want to cover off those for a sec?
Yeah, so we would, after hiring a new person into the business, actually, there was a pretty structured onboarding. I don't know if we're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
but like a scavenger hunt and the process of kind of inducting someone into the business was very structured, which was pretty cool. But Fresh Eyes, was it 6 weeks? Yeah, 6 weeks. We would sit down with the new starter and just ask them, all the questions around how things are going, but also what have you noticed that is working and not working, any initial kind of views of things that we need to change or look at, things that haven't worked so well for you in your first little period. We would, through the scavenger hunt, also kind of give people a view of the vision and the strategy and like, the verbiage on where we're going, our North Star. And so not a test, but a little test, like how well are we communicating this?
Yeah.
And so how easily are people picking this up? So we'd ask a question of like, why does Illumina exist?
Yeah.
And it's just an awesome way of kind of getting very, very fresh eyes feedback from a person coming into the business.
So the scavenger hunt was a comprehensive, actually Taylor did the very first iteration of it.
There you go.
Yes, when she was doing pretty much everything in the business for everyone as the business was kind of very early days. So shout out to Tay, just running the place. So the scavenger hunt was a very structured 2-week onboarding map and it put the power into the hands of the new staff
2
member.
weeks? I feel like months.
2 weeks. It was 2 weeks, but then there were these other kind of touch points. It was 2 weeks of like activities and meetings and getting to know everyone, et cetera, like tasks and things to learn and read. And then there were these touch points kind of all the way up to probation as well, like probation check-ins.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you guys did actually very well, was empowering the individual. So we wanted to build this high-performing organization where people are proactive, leaning in, speaking up. And so from the day you walk in, here are the things and people that we would love you to meet and talk to. But it's on you to kind of set the sessions up all the way, to me and the founders and through the organization, which can be a little daunting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But everyone really lent into that, right?
Yeah. Because when you start a new role and you're just kind of waiting for your manager to kind of give you things to do and you're twiddling your thumbs, and right from the very first morning, it was just like laid out. So really good for kind of building, confidence and competence early. So Fresh Eyes.
So where do you think that lives on the pyramid of Lencioni's?
Well, I've put it under trust for a couple of reasons. So the Fresh Eyes sessions was a new starter with you and me, and we wanted to do all those things you just said, but also, when you come into an organisation like that, there is such a strong sense of belonging. We want people to feel part of the furniture. We want them to feel connected, but we don't want to lose that objectivity as well, that we're just drinking our own Kool-Aid, right? Yeah. So the Fresh Eyes sessions were also a really nice opportunity to kind of get a bit of a sense check on, are we just getting a bit excited about stuff that they might be like, it's not actually as good as you think it is. Yeah. But so often we got the feedback of like, geez, it kind of is what it says on the can.
Yeah, yeah.
So we recorded a bunch of Fresh Eyes sessions and we put them on our YouTube channel because that's so... Why have I put this in kind of the trust part of Lencioni's model for building high-performing teams? We wanted to communicate early that we cared about people's opinions, because we genuinely did. We needed them to kind of contribute to the culture, not kind of, just go along for the ride. We want them to actively contribute to it. We could demonstrate that we were both extremely receptive to feedback and keen for it. They got half an hour with, the CEO. So it was just this kind of communication that this is a safe place and we do invite your input and the door is always open. So I think you could also put it in the conflict, because we did have some interesting suggestions come our way and reflections, and that was a chance to kind of demonstrate that we can respond productively to that kind of feedback. And we made lots of changes to the scavenger hunt based on feedback that came up through the Fresh Eyes session. So I think it fits in those two largely, trust and being able to manage conflict well. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that so something that, going back to kind of Amy's framework, right? The stigmatizing.
Have you always been on a first name basis with
Professor
Amy Edmondson?
Yeah, we're good friends. Yeah.
Ames?
Let's not do that. Maybe one day she'll listen.
He's hoping.
But I think we ran so many sessions and forums around, whether it was the weekly tavern or monthly showcase or sessions that you ran around opening up about, there was a session, I can't remember what it was called, but you asked, I think, me and a couple of other leaders to kind of talk about a time that you stuffed up in your career.
Yeah, that was the session on confidence wobbles.
Confidence wobbles. And those types of things, I think, allowed our folks to kind of see, everyone in the same light. Everyone's trying to do a good job, but has their moments. And so they all kind of stacked up to building that trust. I was looking at conflict. I'm kind of thinking of like, we use bears as our framework, and you can talk about the framework, but like the common language to actually help people have the hard conversations, breaking triangles, like all these frameworks that gave people common lange and a like a level set on how to have fights. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and this like the heuristics, rules of thumb, shortcuts, ways to, because at the Loomery we set aside time to do a lot of these things, and that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's hard to do. Actually building time, particularly for consultancy, into people's days, that we value these things so much and we think they pay off for the client so much that we're going to give our staff time
and
to
look,
do
in full
these things.
Transparency, right? We were talking a lot about how do we find the right balance, and have we got it right? Have we gone one way or another? And so that is not easy to do. And so again, people running teams and leaders, etc., finding that time, finding the investment is hard. And so figuring out how you do it within the kind of constructs of your org requires a lot of thought.
And just like, again, like you said before, one of the best ways to know if you've got like what psychological safety is when you don't have it.
Yeah.
So much of my work now is with organisations that have tried to skip things like building trust and building connection and time together and like being able to learn these skills and frameworks. So BEARS, as an example, is a framework introduced to the business by Electra from the place that we used to work. Great framework. It's a version of like the SBI model, which stands for situation, behaviour, impact. Classic one, how to actually give kind of feedback in a way that we don't get all tangled up and waffle and lose the kind of the heart of the message. But those, like all of those frameworks, is about kind of efficiency. So I think we did do a good job at like carving out time for these things, but we also wanted to teach people shortcuts so that when they did jump off a client call and it had gone pear-shaped, they had a way to quickly get to the heart of it and resolve it. And I'm working lots with teams now and organisations now that have tried to skip these bits thinking there's detours around it, but they never are. It always comes back later. So I was always like, let's be proactive, let's set this up right so that we're preventing a whole lot of stuff that's more expensive, more time consuming, more stressful later on.
I mean, we were, I don't know, Taylor's rushing us along because we're going over time, but this feels like a worthwhile set of discussions.
Yeah.
So let's see how we go. But we trained a lot of our people on how to have how to give feedback, how to receive feedback. Like they were very specific sessions on that, and then asking them to put things into practice using BEARS, right? So BEARS was the framework for those tough conversations, and so getting people to practice was a really important thing for us. And then I think sticking to it. So I would have this often, right? People coming to me and having a challenge or an issue, and it's like, have you given them the feedback?
Yeah.
Why don't we practice a BEARS conversation? And it like at the start, I'm sure very frustrating for lots of people who are just like, just listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Breaking triangles was another big one, right? So you'll often, find those situations where someone goes to someone else to talk about someone else, and trying to break that triangle and bring all those people together to actually have the conversation is
so important.
It's so important, tough to do, but I mean, once it starts happening, it's amazing. And then obviously, I mean, I think the most powerful tool we used was the HBDI tool, which I'm sure we can provide a link and all the rest of it. But like the common language on how to communicate and walk through someone else's door and be able to kind of go, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. Let's put our yellow hats on. And the color means something. It means this type of conversation. I need you to step into this zone. and put this mindset on without having that whole sentence.
Yeah.
Like, just be yellow for now, or be like, we need to be red. So those types of things I think are so critical to, again, codify in your business.
So that topic of psychometrics, like the HBDI, that deserves its whole a whole episode.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, there's a lot in.
I'll wear my colour and you wear your colour. Yes, and Taylor wears.
So, yes, that's another hot topic I reckon that we flesh out in a whole episode because I've got a lot of thoughts, and the research has also got thoughts on
research?
that. The research has thoughts on that. Okay, time to wrap up on today's chat about high-performing teams models. So thank you to you.
Thank you to you.
Yes, I didn't give you a whizzy introduction today. I'll work on that for next time.
Oh, yeah. I noted that down on my notes.
I've had some good ones, but I didn't give you the benefit of that today.
I'll introduce you next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see if I let you get a word in. So thanks to everyone who was listening or watching today's episode. Like us, subscribe to us, Spotify, YouTube.
Like us, but also like the podcast. That'd be great.
Please like us.
Yeah.
Please send us your stories, your use cases, your curly questions. We would love to hear. We've got some in the bank that we're going to focus on in some upcoming episodes. Nominate awesome guests. Come and be a guest. We can see you in Melbourne, or we can Zoom you in online to come and be a guest with us. And that's it. Thanks.
Good. Thank you.